Hi, this is your Stellar Realtor Stella, and welcome to the Stellar Talk Show. This isn't just another story. It's about survival, mindset shift, motherhood, and rebuilding when life knocks you down. Nicole's story will inspire anyone who's felt lost, scared, or stuck to get up and start again. When I heard your story, that actually gives me a lot of inspiration.
I was pretty much on my own. It's where I would sleep in parks.
Oh, wow. Looking at you, I would never imagine that you have that backstory for yourself.
I am who I am, and I'm proud of that.
And I am very proud of who you have become, Nicole. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. Today's guest, Nicole Farrugia, is living proof of that. She went from sleeping on rooftops at age 15 to spending nearly 2 decades in law to building a thriving mortgage business, all while overcoming personal heartbreak, fertility struggles, postpartum depression, and having to rebuild everything from scratch in one of the toughest markets we've ever seen. But here's the part that will make you lean in. Nicole doesn't just share the highlights. She's here to give you the real story, the messy middle and the mindset shift, and the strategies that helped her go from survival mode to a life of purpose, profit, and power. So whether you're a first-time homebuyer, a new immigrant building a fresh start in this country, or someone who just needs proof that you can come back from anything, this episode is your permission slip to rise. Stay with us because what Nicole is about to share might just be the spark that ignites your next chapter. Hi, Nicole. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
Oh, most definitely. Nicole, when I heard your story, that actually gives me a lot of inspiration. So take us back to to the young Nicole. Tell us all about it.
Okay, well, we're going back to when I was 15 years old. I was pretty much on my own, and I had some very challenging times, but I attribute it all to who I am today. So definitely no regrets there. But yes, I was on my own. It was shortly after my 15th birthday. Okay. And I had very many evenings and many nights where I would sleep in parks. When it was really cold, I would sneak into, there was a high-rise apartment building, and I would sneak into there, and I would climb all the way up. I would get my exercise, climb all the way up to the top floor, and right before where you get to the roof, basically there's a mechanical kind of room and area. Yeah. And I would sleep there. And if you were to ask any of my kind of friends from back in the day, nobody really knew what was happening. It wasn't an embarrassment thing. I think I just didn't want anyone to know or to feel sorry for me or anything like that. So I just kind of kept it very, very quiet. So there'd be a day where I would visiting with my friends, having over with my friends for dinner. Yeah. And then if it was one of those evenings where, I couldn't go home or anything like that, then I would go to my one of two places depending on where I was.
Oh, wow. Looking at you, I would never imagine that you have that backstory for yourself. And this is why I tell everybody, no matter who you meet, everybody carries the story.
You never know. And I always say, be nice to people. You be kind, but you don't know what they're going through, right? Even sometimes I try to just remind myself, you meet somebody and they're super grumpy or they're snapping at you because, driving, something like that. And I'm honestly, you never know what they're going through. You never know. And I didn't talk about this until last year, I think was the first time. I just, and it's what my close friends, of course, knew over the years. But I mean, I didn't really speak about this until just very recently, and I'm in my 40s, so that's a long time.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of confidence and strength to talk about a past that is not as pretty as you would wish it was, right? Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, thank you so much for taking the time to come here, and saying yes to sharing your story with us, because that is huge, Nicole. Kudos to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the platform to have a voice. And the goal is to just be able to share that experience and just hopefully help somebody, right? Because if you can instill in somebody that we are not just a direct result of our circumstances, that we can change that path, redirect ourselves. I think that's something that we need to share. And I think for so long I was maybe worried or concerned that people would, maybe see me as or feel sorry or see me as weak or things like that. I just didn't know, how that story would be interpreted. Yes. And when I finally did start to share it, I could see that people were like, oh my gosh, and then you inspire others to share their stories, and you talk, and then you just connect that much more with people because it's so real, right?
That's true. Oh my God, I can't imagine sleeping on a rooftop at the age of 50, especially in Canada. The weather is everywhere.
Well, that was the whole reason. So the park that I spent many nights in, it was literally a house. When you go to the playgrounds and the kids play in the park, that's what it was. So as silly as it sounds, I am so passionate about putting people in homes now because I remember what that home was to me, the meaning of it, the symbolism.
Yes.
So I remember when I bought my very first property, I was in my 30s, and it was a small little condo, 500 square feet. I bawled. I sat on the floor the day that I got the keys. I had no furniture yet, nothing. Yeah. And a friend of mine was with me at the time, and I just was because it was so, I was so proud. I was so excited. I was I did this, right? So that's how I guess I'm very much emotionally invested in all of my clients. I love all of them equally, but my first time home buyers especially, because I have that passion.
Because you connect with them really well. It comes from a personal space, right?
Yes, 100%.
Most definitely. So tell me your mindset at that age, Nicole, at 15 years old, a girl in Toronto, in Ontario, how was that? What was the mindset at that time? And what was the pivoting moment there?
There was definitely fear, and I was scared for sure, but I can say that now, but I don't know if I actually knew that at the time. And I say that because that was my life. That's just what I knew.
Survival mode.
Yes. It kicks in. It's instinctual. And I'm a mother, as you know, and if I think back now and I'm my son on his own sleeping in, I would die. But I didn't know any of that. You just exactly like you said, it's that survival, right? You just go. And I just remember that as scared as I was, and as, sad as I was, and all of the feelings, you feel all the feelings. I just was this, I kept telling myself always, this is temporary. It's not always going to be like this. It will get better.
Yeah.
I had no idea how. I just knew that it wasn't going to be like this forever.
Yeah. That is it's very hard to have that mindset when you're in the deep bottom of things, right? And I think that is the mindset that you do need at that time to break through that.
And I don't know where it came from, if I'm being completely honest. This is where I just feel it is innate, we're built like this, in some sort of, innate or genetics, or however, we're built certain ways. Yeah. Of course, you have to practice that. You have to, otherwise you can go a different route. But I've always been like that. So given how I grew up, I was, it was a very poor neighborhood as well too. So there was a lot of crime, there was a lot of all of those things, and I just remember, seeing that, and I'm just I don't want any of that for myself, right?
Yeah.
It was just, I was no. So I was a straight A student going through, school, working, living, trying to pay rent. It was very difficult for me to try to even find places to rent when I, eventually needed to. The first little while, I was living with my mom. I bounced around quite a bit, but I was living with my mom for a while. My mom has a lot of mental health issues as well too, so that's part of where all of this kind of came from.
Yeah.
And so for the first while, it was sporadic. So it was I wasn't sleeping, for the full year or whatever. It would be days here, days that. And then when I eventually had to find my own place, it was so difficult because I had to. Who was going to rent to a kid?
Yeah.
Nobody is, so. It was difficult, but you meet amazing people along the way, and you just, like I just was like, okay, hey, I've got to work, I've got to hustle, I've got to grind, and I'm actually very grateful for those things because that has transitioned or translated into, again, who I am today. Because I always felt like I had to work that much harder to kind of prove myself, because I didn't have, even when I got older in my legal days, I didn't have all of the degrees that everybody else had that I was competing against, just because my circumstances didn't allow for that. But I was like, no, that's okay. Like I can, outperform people.
I learn as I go.
Yes,
I learn as I go. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I really like the fact that you mentioned that it wasn't easy, but you need to be strong to get yourself there. That actually resonates with me really well, because it wasn't like, I know there's a lot of people, like in a lot of audience right now listening to us, they might be in that space in their life, like it's not easy, they're just starting right now, they're lost in the process, but keep believing in yourself and keep at it. Don't give up, make the right choices. I know when you come to that space, you actually get exposed to a lot of opportunities that may not be the right choice for you.
Yes.
Just being very mindful about what the values that you want to uphold for yourself, which is exactly what you did, Nicole, right?
Thank you.
And that strength, that struggle that you took as a challenge to build the life that you have built for yourself right now.
Thank you for saying that, and I do agree wholeheartedly. And I think it's also, I wanna emphasize that we have to find a happy medium, and I don't know how, because it's so difficult, but you do have to find a happy medium between pushing yourself and but not also succumbing to those fears. Because I know, like for myself, if I look back, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished, and I truly am grateful and proud of that. But I also know that if I didn't let myself be fueled by a lot of that fear and even like that scarcity mindset, I probably would have been further along, or at least accomplished the same things that I've now, but much earlier. Because even when I got into my adult life and my career, wanting to be self-employed and all those kinds of things, I just was very scared for so long that I just didn't take a lot of those jumps, because I was like, all of the what ifs, right? Like it was very scary. So once I got to a place where I was like stable, I'm like, okay, this is safer. This is safer, right? So you need to allow that fear to fuel you and push you, but also not hold you back from some of the bigger things that we know we're capable of, and we have to believe we're capable of.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's the beauty of strength that women hold. That's absolutely.
And we don't know we
have
it. We don't know we have it. I mean, maybe we do to an extent, but we don't know.
Yeah, we don't recognize it on a daily basis. But once you sit down, breathe, and look back, I'm like, that is, oh my God, right? Yeah,
it's true. Like when you do the reflection, you're like even myself now, I speak about these things, but sometimes even if I pull myself out of my body and I listen to the story and I apply it to Kai, like my son or something, and I'm like, oh, okay, like you did good. You pat yourself on your back, because you're like, wow, you need the strength.
You need the strength. Most definitely. And at times like that, when you are in that moment, hearing like, no, it's not only you, other people went through similar journeys like you did, and they made it, and how they made it, what was the mindset, what was the strategy, what was the goal. Those are game changers, and that's exactly why this platform actually brings much value to the audience, because that's exactly what we share.
It's inspiration, and people can see. Like, I'm a firm believer, and I kind of said it earlier, like, we can redirect ourselves. Like, we are not just the automatic result of our circumstances, right? Like, if I look back to majority of my friends and the people who I had in my life at that time when I was so young, sadly, majority of them did not take a similar route as I did, right? And it's because they're just like, this is my life, this is the norm, right? And there is absolutely no judgment. I mean that in no way. I just mean, like, you have to truly believe that, no, I can change this, even when you don't know how, because that's the biggest thing. I had no idea. I just knew I wasn't gonna. It was temporary, right?
So, but you believed in it, and you kept at it. That's the power.
Exactly.
Kudos to you, Nicole. Hearing this, I know I had a lot of respect for you since I got to know you, but it actually grew like in tremendous amounts, after hearing your story and what you have achieved throughout that journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about your career path. So from that to getting into, you mentioned that you were in legal before, getting into finances and mortgages. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that shift happen from where you are? How were you able to get yourself from there to somewhere that you can call that you're now employed?
Yeah.
And how did that shift happen?
For sure. So the legal was something I was always passionate about. So that was my thing. Like I love to educate, to teach people. Just that whole justice. Like I loved all of that. So when I was in high school, I took all of the elective courses. I did a lot of the law courses. And then I think you're 15 when I did my first co-op course, like the placement. So I did that, and I don't know if beg or harass is the right word, but I made sure that I got a job after, because when the co-op placement was done, it was like 6 months, and I literally asked if I could be hired, and the lawyer at the time was like, "You're too young. Like I can't have it was a co-op placement, and that was it."
How old were you, if you don't mind?
I think I was either 15 or 16 at the time. I want to say I think it was 16.
Yeah.
Because maybe grade 10? I can't remember. But I was pretty sure I was 16. Was the first time I got exposed to it. And then within that period of time, I took the bus every day this was after the co-op, I took the bus every single day to go, like, until she hired me, basically. It's like, I have this passion. I don't care if I have to answer phones. Like, I want to do this. So I did that, and I loved it, right away. I had exposure to criminal law, immigration, family law, all that kind of stuff, some real estate. But then a couple years later, again, I was just always in that field, still going to school. Then I had the opportunity to work for some very big firms in downtown Toronto, like in the Path and the Financial District.
Okay.
So that's where I spent majority of my career, and that was just really like head down grinding, kind of proving myself. And because I started so young, I advanced fairly quickly. I spent about 18 years in total, but it was one of those things where I just kind of capped out, right? Like I was managing teams, doing all these kinds of things. I had basically kind of built a firm as well too with some partners, and so it was one of those things where I was like, what now? So if I'm being honest, when it comes to where I am now, finance, I don't even like numbers. Like, I did not expect to ever be here, but it was a calling for me. And I say that because it just naturally happened. So fast forward to I eventually got the strength to kind of quit the firms, and I was consulting in the legal space. I had a lot of business and operations, business management experience just from all of that experience over the years. So I ended up helping a friend of mine who was a mortgage broker, who was trying to basically become a builder and do a bunch of work in that scene. So I had exposure there, and then word kind of just got round. I had a previous business partner, and I started working with her and was helping scale the business. And as I was kind of overseeing things from an operations perspective, I would just naturally start to get referrals, because people that were speaking to me would be like, sending me business, and I'm like, this wasn't the intention. Like, that wasn't what I was planning on doing. But I realized that I was actually helping people, like, by just being genuine and being honest. Like, people wanted to deal with me. And I'm a firm believer that you can teach anyone the textbook basics of any industry. It's like in our industry, for example, anybody can learn to be, but it's dealing with people. It's the people skills. It's the stuff that you can't teach, right? That is so important. And so I just kept, kind of naturally, like I said, getting referrals and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I've got something here. And it just kind of organically happened. And here I am. And even I went through a period of time where I know we'll probably talk about this, but I lost everything. I kind of had to decide how I was going to rebuild my life, and I thought about possibly going back into legal. I did question, do I want to be here? What do I want to do? And I was like, no, this is my thing.
Yeah, and you're absolutely best at it.
So yes,
yes,
yes, I try.
Yeah, that's amazing. That mindset of evolving and learning as you go, I think that's key, especially in today's economy too. Like, you may have a lot of degrees and everything, which is great. Awesome, good for you. But, applying that knowledge and, keep evolving, because everything is changing every single day with technology, AI, 100%. This and that. That's what you need to be doing. Yes. And that's exactly.
You have to always be at the top of your game. Like, I hear all these things all the time that people are worried about, like, AI replacing us. And all. I'm like, you can never replace a person and that, like, sure, you can, replace certain tasks and things like that, but it's not the same as somebody who genuinely cares of you, who's going to look out for you and stay up to date with everything and understand how to apply it to your specific situation, right?
That's absolutely
so many
right.
on every single day, I would say I'm having conversations with people and I'm hearing certain things that the average person would say is not relevant to what I'm doing, but because I would know, like, okay, they're planning for a baby, or they're going through fertility, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. I'm like, these are the things that I'm going to take and apply into what I'm going to structure for them.
Exactly.
AI is not going to be able to do that, right?
Exactly.
So again, it complements, sure.
It complements it,
This is where, again, really being in a people first business, the brokerage that I am with, and we say, like, we're in the people business. We just happen to do mortgages, right?
Yeah. I think just because we are on the topic of AI here, like, we just went out of subject.
I know.
But to become the person that AI can't replace.
That's exactly it. 100%.
100%.
That's exactly it.
So tell me, Nicole, so you went into employment, you went into legal, and, accidentally got into the finance aspect of it. How was your mindset, and what was your strategy moving from employee to now entrepreneurship?
I was terrified, honestly. I was terrified. Like, no matter how strong you are and no matter how far I've come, there's always that little girl there. There's always that little girl who was back in the park who's scared of losing everything and, don't want to go back there. So for me, I was very successful in the legal field and it was safe for me. And I had a steady paycheck coming in, and even when I got into my consulting role, like, it was, like, people knew me in that industry. I was an expert. I was good. But I actually have to give, kudos and, a shout out to my ex, my son's father, because in full transparency, I think finally having a support system and somebody that I didn't realize, and even I have, like, the most amazing friends that I am so grateful for, that I've had forever, that were like, you got this, Nicole, like, you got this, and, like, you need to do this, like, you need to do something more. So I think just finally having that support system and trusting them, like, listening to them and trusting them, and I'm like, okay, what, the people that love you are telling you this, they're not going to steer you in the right direction. So it was just taking that leap, but it took me a very long time to do it because I was just so scared. It wasn't that I didn't have confidence in myself and my ability, it was that the what ifs were louder in my head.
Always. The what ifs are always louder.
Yes.
Yeah. But, just, having your voice over that is the power.
Trying to be louder. I like to think I'm fairly loud, but it didn't, it was hard. So, I'm so grateful that they gave me that push to do that, because as soon as I did, it was, I knew it was the right calling for me. And then I just kind of, grew from there. And, when I went through the period, so I kind of fast forward, I was in that consulting space for a while. I was self-employed. And then I went through some very challenging times a couple years ago, where I went through a personal separation with my son's father. And I think, as a woman, not even as a woman, male or female, but when that's coming. Like, you know when things are, kind of, falling apart, and you just know. It's not a surprise for the most part. Like, unless something specific happened. In my case, nothing specific happened, so you knew. So you kind of have time to prepare for that. You're never fully prepared. You still got to deal with the emotions, but I knew that was happening. But in my case, the way I planned to kind of heal through that and do all of that was to continue to push myself in my business. And I was at the top of my business and in my career with my business partner at the time. And so very quickly and very unexpectedly, that took a turn. And so I basically found myself losing both of that and walking away from all of that within like a 6-month period. And my son was very young. I was dealing with postpartum that nobody knew about. And I felt like I was a disaster. Like, it just felt like you're at that rock bottom, basically. And I think this. I come from a boxing background, so I use a lot of that terminology. I was ready to throw in the towel. But I think that's something as a mom as well, too. You don't have that luxury anymore, right? Like, you can't. You can't, right? Like, you're just like, well, suck it up, Nicole, because we got to figure this out.
You're just single person all this time, like girlfriend, wife, whichever role you're in. All of a sudden, boom! Now you're adding another role into that part. Now you're a mom, and it doesn't come with a manual,
at all.
Doesn't. learning as you go is a very good skill to have, but this is the hardest time that you go through learning as you go.
Yeah. And it's such a rush of emotion. And, my son, I think I've told you this, like, it was my miracle baby. I went through fertility to have him, and I was like, he's my everything. And
he's
so
adorable.
Finally, thank you. I like to think so. But having him, it was the happiest time of my life. And yet I think that was the biggest part of postpartum as well too, is that I couldn't tell or understand why I wasn't happy. I was at the peak of my career. I was doing great, and you're just so confused. And I think as a strong woman, and as of you've gone through so many challenging things, or I've been through so many challenging things. I'm like, what's my problem? Like, what's the problem, right? And so, in my case, I just didn't even stop to understand what was happening with me. It wasn't like I was trying to ignore it. Like I was like, okay, well, I don't feel well today, or I'm not, I have no energy today. I can't get out of bed today. Well, too bad. You got to go, right? So, and I think that's the thing too. When you have people depending on you, that's a natural, force. I was not going to let my family down, my team down, my partner down. So, you just go. But it was so difficult for me to understand why it was the happiest thing that ever happened to me with, my son, and being able to provide and have this career, but still, not feeling like I was happy, or not feeling like I was doing enough for everybody, right? So I've learned over the years, we have to give ourselves grace. Like, we can't, as women, as business, mompreneurs, all these things, it's okay to not have it all together all the time.
No, absolutely.
And to not, like, there's so many days where it's like, and I'm sure you're the exact same way, where it's like you feel like you're at the top of your game in your business. You're like, I got this, I'm good. And then you feel like you're failing as a mom, or vice versa, right? It was so hard. It drives me crazy. I hear talking about balance all the time. There's no balance. Like, you do your best. And some days, you're 10 out of 10, and some days maybe you're a 2, and you hang out in 5 for half the time, and that's okay, right?
No, I hear you. Like, when you're telling me this, I'm actually going, like, it's replaying in my head is what I went through during postpartum as well. I think the struggle or where we need to focus is when we are strong women, Nicole. Everybody that's surrounded by us, they all think, oh, she got this.
Yes.
If she came through so much, what is this?
Yes.
She got this. She doesn't need my support. And what add fuel to the fire is, as strong women, we never ask.
You nailed it. That's exactly it.
We never ask, right? We are so not used to asking for help. We always believe, okay, I got this. And now they're thinking she got this. I'm thinking I got this. In the end, like, you struggle in silence. And, until you hit that maximum peak and you break down, you're like, I never knew you're going through this.
100%. It's so true. And that's where I'm like, we have to take responsibility for that, because, like, I know even in my own personal circumstances, like, I was fortunate enough to have people say, like, are you good? Are you? But they, people are going to get tired of asking if you're good if you keep saying you're fine all the time. And, and then we realize we're not. And then for me, it was like, again, I would kept equating it to, you've been through so much and you were fine through that. How are you not fine now?
Yeah. This is what you wanted all your life. Now you have it. What's wrong now?
Exactly.
This is the question you will keep asking yourself, but you will not ask it out loud in the fear of, okay, no, I got this. Right? But I think that's where, like, not only as strong women, we should have awareness, Nicole, and anybody who's going through that. Also, the family and the friends around them should have awareness. Like, yes, they just had a baby, give them the space, whatever, but be available. Just let them know, hey, if you need to talk, I'm here, I'm all ears. If you need a coffee, let me know, I can pick you up. Like, hey, if you want a break while your baby, I can come in, I can take care of the baby for one day. So these little things are very important, especially when you're going through postpartum.
So it's so important. And, like, I remember before I had my son, again, because I had him later in life with everything that I was going through, and I always pictured and dreamed that I would be the mom enjoying my mat leave to the fullest, like, parks, and I didn't have a mat leave because I was self-employed.
Yeah.
And so I was doing deals from my hospital bed, and I don't say that because I'm proud of that. It's just that's what it was. And so my son's father worked for the government, so was able to take regular pat leave and all those kinds of things. And I remember I have this one image in my head where I remember I was in between meetings on the road. I was pumping with my milk for my son in the back of my car seat in between meetings, and my son's dad called to tell me something that my son did, and I was just bawling. I acted like I was okay, and then I hung up and I was bawling because I was so you're exhausted. I was sad. I'm like, I just want to enjoy a mat leave, and I just want to be home and do all these things. And it was it was crazy. And I remember one of the challenges and conversations I had with my ex at the time too was it's hard taking care of being at home and taking care of a child and all these kinds of things. And I'm like, well, I would give anything to trade that. Right? Because you're juggling everything, right? Yeah. So it's it's tough when you just go through all the emotions, and then having the postpartum emotional roller coaster as it is just enhances everything, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, I feel like a crazy person. But we're not crazy.
Yeah, no, not only you, Nicole, a lot of us who went through postpartum, we all feel that at one point or another. We just don't talk about it.
Exactly.
It's like the mommy guilt that we try to hide.
It's real. It's so real. That and the mom brain, the brain fog that never comes back. That too.
Yes, but to hear that you're very open to share that, because I haven't met many women who will talk openly about their personal experience. I know we want to talk about rainbows and unicorns and butterflies. But we don't actually talk about the good, bad, and the ugly. And it takes a lot of courage, Nicole, for you to come and share that with me. And thank you so much for doing that. So tell me, you went through, during all that in business too, we were going through a very tough market that we have seen in the industry, in the real estate mortgage industry. Yes. How were you able to manage all that and also thrive in the business world?
I think it really just came down to honing into who I am, my core values, and what I want. So regardless of, the worst markets, there's always going to be business. People always, that's where we're fortunate in our, people need a house to live. People need a roof over their head. So that's where it's we have to figure out how we can, take some of that limited market share, and how can you, and for me, it was really I'm just going to be me. That's it. And I am not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay. I was okay with that. With all of that I went through, I just was really proud and, respected who I was as a woman, as a business leader. I'm like, listen, I'm just going to lead with authenticity and, sincerity. And if I can help people, I will. And once I started to flip that switch and get back into that mindset, that's where I was able to double the business in a matter of 6 months. Because when I left my previous partnership, I had to start from scratch, literally in the worst market. So it was one of those things where I'm like, how am I going to do this? And so at first I got caught up for a little bit. I think I had lost my confidence for a little while. I think, in full transparency, that's very hard for me as a stronger woman to admit. But I think losing all of that, and we'll say walking away from all of those things, you get to a point where you're like, is it me? Did I do something? And you kind of question yourself, right? So I went through all of that, and then when you realize no, it's not, and you find that kind of confidence again, I just was like, okay, well, I don't need to say yes to everything. I don't need to say yes to all of this business. I just want to do business with the people who I feel that I can relate to, who I feel I can, truly help. So when I started, as crazy as it sounds, when I started to say no to a lot of business and just work with people who I wanted to work with, that's where my business just flourished again, because it was they were, every happy client and happy person that you speak to becomes a natural advocate for you, and then ends up bringing business. So I'm fortunate that I'm 100% referral business by either my realtor partners or my clients. And within 2 years of rebuilding my business, within the first 6 months of the second year, I was back to doing the same levels of business as I was when I was pretty much at the top of my game in a down market.
Yeah.
So, and that's literally just because I would say no to people. Like, this is not going to help you. This is what, and things like that. And it was so scary to do that because I was worried I was taking, like, and one, you want to lead with sincerity, but at the same time, like, I have to put food on the table. I have to keep a roof over my head. I have to work, right? So it was one of those things where it was like I was scared that if I kept saying no to that business, I wouldn't be able to do that. But I just had to trust in the fact that after everything I've gone through, I'm like, I am who I am, and I'm going to lead with the kind of, put that intention out there.
Exactly. Being authentic about yourself. And also the power of saying no. And, you're absolutely right by saying that when I started my business too, I wanted to help every single person I met. But, after some time, I realized, no, Stella, you can't do that. In some places, you have to draw the line and you have to say no. Or we have to say, okay, let's regroup after a timeline, because that is also a winning strategy. Because if you're going to be saying yes all the time, you are absolutely wasting your time and also 100%. The other person's time.
Exactly. And like, you just have to, I think, be honest with yourself, because you and I are so similar. And again, as strong women, our energy is like contagious, and that can be good or bad, right? So I would catch myself, like, if there was somebody who, again, just wasn't aligning with me or anything like that, like, I felt like I couldn't be my best because I was, so it's like, you just need to say, that's okay, maybe I'm not the right person for you, right? And the more you, again, lead in that energy and you put that out there, whether you want to call it manifestation or whatever the case is, there's multiple terms, but that is what is going to come back to you. So I wholeheartedly believe that what you put out there is what you'll receive.
Exactly. And just being authentic, being unique in your industry, being that person who has the best interest at heart, that's more valuable than saying yes to everything all the time.
Yes, exactly. Like people thought I was crazy, and some of my my friends and my team at the time too. They're like, what do you mean you said no to that deal? Like what? No, it doesn't make sense. I don't feel good about it. I'm gonna say no. Right? Like it's and in my side of things, when we're looking at referral partners and things like that, like yourself, for example, as a realtor, I have to understand that if I'm saying no to you, I'm not just saying no to one deal, for lack of a better way of saying it. I'm saying like that's a whole future pipeline of business. That's a relationship, right? And it's very likely that if I say no, Stella, I'm not going to do this, you're probably not going to send me more business because you're going to be upset, right? So when I would say that to people, I was so scared that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm throwing away future business, and it was so much bigger for me. But then I had to remember, like, no, because you know what? If they're the right person, if we're the right team and the right partners together, you're going to understand if I come to you and say, hey, you know what, Stella, this doesn't make sense for your client. Because if we're both on the same page, you're going to understand, and you're going to say, thanks, Nicole, I appreciate, we don't want to put them in that bad situation, right? So that was the kind of people I had to find my tribe. I had to find the people who were going to say, we want to work together to put those clients together, right? So it was just finding my tribe, I say.
Exactly. And, thriving there. So, what you have shared, Nicole, is very powerful, and also it inspires. So you actually built your business and you've been very successful at it, and that is all from transparency and being authentic. So give me an example of a time that you said no to someone that didn't sign in with your value. Like, is there something that stands out that you'd like to share with us?
I'd probably say, because we were talking about a very challenging market, early COVID, when there was business for everyone because it was so busy, interest rates were crazy. It was so easy for people to qualify. As a mortgage broker, I'm known for pushing boundaries and making magic happen in terms of my relationships with my lenders, and I usually can stretch clients' affordability, like all these good and exciting things. But I had so many opportunities where I had, my realtor partners or people that were coming to me saying, okay, hey, we need to push the max for these clients, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like, can I do it? Can I get it done? Yes. But I'm not going to. And that was because although we could not predict how bad things were going to get, I wish we could, but we couldn't. We knew that things had to at least get back to normal and stabilize, right? Pre-pandemic level. So if I knew that, once things normalized and stabilized, those clients were not going to be in a good position, there was multiple times that I had to say no to people. Well, I don't think this makes sense for you. Oh, but I can go get it done across the street. I can go get it done. Yes, you can. You can. I just am not going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And that was very, very difficult because again, it was like I have to worry about like, am I going to get a bad reputation because of that? Because I'm saying no to people, like, and people are going to talk. But I was like, no, you have to stay true to who you are. And there's 3 that I'm thinking of right off the top of my head. One was a relationship that I lost and never came back. And I'm okay with that. I came to terms with that. I was like, okay, I wasn't the right person for you. But 2 of those clients have since now come back to me and like, so grateful to me that I didn't put them in that situation despite them. One of them actually was not so nice to me because they were really upset about it. But they came back after and like they were so grateful that I said no. Because they would have been in a very bad situation.
Very bad. That's what authenticity does. That transparency does.
100%.
So that's amazing. Like to see that how you are handling these situations and thriving in the business as you should be. And Nicole, I want to ask. So we have a lot of first-time home buyers entering the market in today's economy that we are seeing right now. It's a buyer's market.
100%.
Right. And every immigrant's dream is to have that little piece that they can call home. So what do you wish every first-time home buyer knew before they start their journey?
Oh, that's a good one. Is to be as proactive as you can to speak to somebody. Doesn't have to be myself, but to speak to somebody to really understand what the future goals are and to really hone in on what is important to you and take a proper look at like your finances and everything, because people get so caught up in, okay, how much house can I afford and all of these kinds of things, but they're not truly honest throughout the process, and it's not ill-intended. They just, they're like, oh, okay, hey, this is how much money we make, we can afford this. I always say as a mortgage broker, I am bound by telling you how much you can qualify because we have to factor in things like, your income and whatever's reported on your credit bureau. We don't factor in, or we're not required to factor in things like daycare costs, or you have an elderly parent that you're taking care of. So it's so important for them to be open with us about what their life actually looks like, so that we can tell them, okay, this is what actually makes the most sense for you, because that is how they're going to be able to truly thrive, enjoy that little piece that they can call home, and be able to actually grow, right? Because if they don't put themselves beyond their means, with the natural appreciation, all that kind of stuff, we can help them, upsize in a few years and all those kinds of things. So it's just truly being honest about the actual process so that we can better serve them and make sure that we're meeting their goals.
That's absolutely right. You nailed it on the head. So,
thank you.
Yeah. And what is one of the biggest, in your opinion, what is one of the biggest myths that you're saying that are happening in the market right now in the real estate mortgage industry?
The biggest myths. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a myth, but it's my pet peeve for quite some time, and it's this rate obsession. This like just the fact that like everybody's literally obsessed with rates. I am not. I don't want to get a whole bunch of bad comments here and people are like, what is she talking about? I'm not saying rates are not important. Of course they are. But the reason why it's my pet peeve is because not all products are created equal, nor are the lenders. And so I have had countless conversations with people about, Nicole, I just want the lowest rate. And I'm like, great, I want you to have the lowest rate. But Stella, that's not going to make sense. Based on what you've told me, this is what you need. And like I can very easily show you that actual product or an interest rate that is a full % higher than what you're being quoted by another institution is actually going to outperform. And so if I were to say to you, Stella, why do you want the lowest rate? People look at me like I'm asking them a trick question. It's not a trick question. I genuinely want to hear what they're saying. Most of the time the answer is, well, because I want to pay as limited amount of interest as possible, and I want to keep my payments as low as possible, like cash flow. So the fact that you can have products that can actually minimize all of that, regardless of what the actual rate looks like, is night and day. But people don't stop to want to hear about the actual product because they get so caught up with what's on paper. Right? Like, oh, okay, this is a full % lower. How is that even possible? So I just wish that people would spend more time understanding or taking the time to understand the product and the actual structure of a mortgage as opposed to just focusing on rate, because it's night and day for them.
Yeah. Like see beyond the rate.
100%. That's exactly it. Please.
Yeah, see beyond that. There's more to a mortgage than just the rate, because focusing on a number that changes all the time
Yeah.
is not going to resolve your or gain your long-term goal in a home ownership and paying off that mortgage, because that's what everybody wants to achieve.
Exactly. And this is not a knock towards any bank or anything like that, but that's the difference between somebody like myself or brokers out there versus just kind of walking into a bank and saying, okay, hey, I want this. They're not. And it's not their fault, but most of the time they're not as educated in terms of some of the other products out there because they only have access to the one, for example, right?
Exactly.
So they're not able to, best advise a client literally because they just don't know anything different, right? So that's why it's so important for clients to actually understand and see, okay, what options do you have available to them?
Yeah, most definitely. That's absolutely wonderful sharing that with us.
Thank you.
So this actually concludes the conversation, but I want to get into a lightning round.
Okay.
So let's get in there.
Let's do it.
Okay, so 5 questions, straight and simple, but to the point answers.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one. One word that defines the chapter of your life right now.
Resilience. Oh, I have 2. Okay, I'll go with.
Let's go with the 2.
Okay, resilience, and it's not technically 1, but just unapologetic. Like and I mean that in a good way. Like I am who I am, and I'm proud of that. So I'm going to own that. So unapologetic.
Yeah, and I think it's actually very valuable to have that mentality, because that's what makes you outshine and also be very laser focused at your goals.
Thank you.
So it's absolutely a good one to have. The next one, a book, a podcast, or a quote that changed your mindset.
The Mel Robbins Let Them is a huge. I love it. It's and I know it's very popular right now.
Yeah.
The other one I'll like. Sorry, I'm giving you 2. This is not. I'm failing.
Yeah.
The Audacity to Be Queen is another book that I absolutely love.
Yeah, so you guys should definitely check them out. This is something that we go through every day. So in the morning when I wake up, I try to check, do I need tea or coffee today? For you, is it tea or coffee, and how do you take it? My
Staple is a Tim Hortons steep tea.
Steep tea.
I am not a Starbucks. Sorry, I'm not. I'm a Timmy's girl.
Yeah, me too. I love my Timmy's,
See?
right?
That's why we're friends.
Yeah, how do you take it? What does your steep tea look like?
So I will probably have 3 milk and 1 sugar. I like it milky. I like it
And that's a good comment.
Yeah.
Less sugar, more milk.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Right?
Yeah, that's
Anytime.
true. Yeah.
I love it. I'll take it all day. Actually, no, I can't because then I won't sleep. But yes.
Yeah. I know that you appreciate your motherhood a lot. So tell me, what is one thing that motherhood taught you?
Just one.
I know there's many.
I know. I'm like, oh gosh. Honestly, I think I'm just going to keep it simple to how strong I actually am. And I say that because even though I knew that growing up the way I did, there were so many times over the last couple of years where I was, like I said, ready to throw in the towel. And because I'm a mom and because I am, setting that ground for Kai and he looks up to me, there was just like, no, you don't have any option but to continue to push forward and succeed and be strong because you have to set that example for him. So strength.
Yeah, the strength. That's powerful. Thank you. If you could tell your 14-year-old self one thing, what would that be?
I'm going to say this without being emotional. That none of it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Like for many years, couldn't understand why I went through and why my circumstances were the way they were, right? So you can't help but question, like, did I do something wrong, right? Like, was it me? Should I have done something different to not have or not be a product of that environment? So I'm going to say it's not your fault.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you're going to say, I'm very proud of who you have become.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And I am very proud of who you have become, Nicole. It's not easy to take life as it throws at you, but you take it and mold it the way that you want it to be. That is strength, power, and resilience there. So thank you very much, Nicole.
Thank you.
Taking
Thank
the
you
time.
for having me.
You're most welcome. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you. And we look forward to meeting you again in one of our next shows.
Definitely. Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Wow. Nicole, thank you for your honesty and your heart. You reminded us that the hardest chapters of our lives can become the foundation for our greatest success. And to you, our listeners, if today's episode moved you, inspired you, or gave you that little nudge to keep going, I want to hear all about it. drop a comment, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and hit that subscribe button, because on the Stellar Talk Show, this is what we do. Real stories, real strategies, and real success. Remember, you are one decision away from rewriting your story, and we are here to help you do it. Until next time, keep building, keep believing, and keep showing up for the life you deserve. Until next time, stay stellar. Thank you for spending your time with us on the Stellar Talk Show. We hope you found value in today's episode and gained insights to help elevate your lifestyle. If you enjoyed the discussion, please like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who could benefit. It means the world to us. Until our next episode, stay inspired, and I'll see you soon on our next Stellar Talk Show.